My name is Roy Cooper. I'm co-chair of the StreetSafe Task Force, along with Secretary of Corrections Al Keller, who is to my right here. And we want to welcome all of you to this first task force meeting. A couple of housekeeping chores. One is to let you know that the meeting is being recorded. There are handheld mics throughout the tables for amplifications when you would like to speak or if you have a question. Remember to turn those handheld mics on. You'll see these little mouse black type things that are along the tables. They are microphones for recording only, and right now they are off because you probably don't want your whispers back and forth to be recorded. However, during the end period where we have the general discussion, we will turn all of those on so that we make sure we get everybody's comments recorded into the record. So we wanted to do those housekeeping chores. And also, in accordance with the State Government Ethics Acts, we would ask task force members to avoid conflicts of interest and appearances of conflicts. Task force members should not accept gifts from any party that may receive a financial benefit from the work of this task force. Members should abstain from participation in any matter that could result in a financial benefit to themselves, their family, and if you feel that you have a comment, you can seek out one of the staff members or seek out information from the North Carolina Ethics Commission. I'd also like, there's a lot of staff here, and I'll ask Secretary Keller when he gets up to make some remarks to introduce any staff members from the Department of Corrections that is here, that are here. But there are a number of task force staff members from the North Carolina Department of Justice who are here. And when I call your names, I'd like for you to just raise your hand so that people will know who you are. Jennifer Epperson. Jennifer is right over here. Lindsay Deere. Where's Lindsay? Lindsay's back there in the yellow. David Elliott, who is our head of Victims and Citizen Services, who is right there standing there. My Chief of Staff for the Department of Justice is here, Christy Hyman. Christy, where are you? Okay, so Christy's sitting down right there, raising her hand. John Basin. John, if you raise your hand, responsible for a lot of the audio-visual that we have today, is here. Brandon Madden, who is also here, if you can raise your hand. And we have from our Public Information Office, Noel Talley. Noel, if you can raise your hand there. And Jennifer Canada, who is here. Am I missing any other members of my staff who might happen to be here? I'm going to ask Secretary Keller to make some remarks. I will then make a few introductory remarks. We'll then allow time to go around the table to have people introduce themselves and maybe a brief point of interest. And then we're going to take a very short break, maybe a 10 or 15 minute break, because we do have some media here and they may want to talk to some of you about the importance of this effort. I think it's important. One of the things we're trying to do is to raise a synergy about this, and we'll take maybe about 15 minutes to allow them to talk to you and then have them pack up and leave if they want to. Then we'll have a video presentation. Then we will start with our speakers and do a working lunch, and then we will have a wrap-up and discussion at the end. We're also not going to take any committee time to discuss schedule. This task force, as you can see, is made up of very important, busy people. I'm very honored to be here with all of you today. Everybody's schedule is going to be different. I would ask that you talk to one of these staff members. Jennifer, do we want to designate anyone in particular, or you can just find any of the staff members? Any of the staff members to let them know what days are better for you, whether you have some particular conflicts, We'll try to assemble all of that information and determine when the best time is to have the next few meetings. We're going to be setting them out so you'll be able to put them on your calendar, which is important. So just tell a staff member about your schedule, what days may be best for you, so that we can go ahead and get that put into place. Also, clearly we want you here every minute of every meeting. We also know that many of you are in positions of great responsibility, really all of you are, and that there may be some meetings that you miss. If you want to designate a top staff person or someone to come and be at this meeting, to take notes and to participate, then we encourage that if you cannot be here. We would, however, like for you to let our staff member know who that person will be, so we'll be ready to have that person and to greet that person. So before I make some additional remarks, I'm going to call on my colleague, the Secretary of Corrections. He has a tremendous background in the military, JAG. He was a great attorney at the North Carolina Department of Justice, and he's working very hard in the Department of Corrections. As you will hear and see, the Department of Corrections is doing a lot of outstanding work in this area already. He wants to be a part of coordinating the efforts so that we can do a much better job of making sure that people stay on the straight and narrow after they leave the Department of Corrections and probation. So at this time, I'm going to call on my friend Secretary Keller to make a few remarks to the Commission.
Good morning. Well, what Attorney General Cooper failed to mention is that he was also the greatest boss in the world. I commend you for your willingness to serve on this task force and to help North Carolina make a safer and more secure place to live and work for all of our families. This year, more than 28,000 people will leave the gates of our state prisons. The majority, or about 86%, will have finished their sentences and will not be subject to any type of probation or parole supervision. They will return to our communities looking for work, looking to start a new life, and hopefully they will be determined to stay out of trouble. They will be free to go and come as they please, set their own schedules, and manage their own affairs. And that's a big change from the routine of living life behind bars. And not everyone can make that transition easily. The department will supervise more than 115,000 offenders in the community on probation. These offenders, though not leaving confinement, must make changes in their lives so that they too can stay out of trouble as well. The challenge for people with criminal records to become productive members of our communities are the same for those who are released from prison. The department works to prepare offenders while they are in prison through educational and vocational training, life skills learning, cognitive behavior programs, and substance abuse treatment. But once they are no longer under supervision, they will need to rely upon the resources available in their home communities for support, encouragement, and assistance. We know that employment is a significant factor that affects the success of those leaving correctional supervision. An ex-offender who is gainfully employed is 3 times more likely to succeed than one without a job. We are proud of the work done by our divisions and the Office of Transition Services to provide an array of programs, services, and activities designed to help inmates and probationers live independently, to work, to secure and maintain a residence, to maintain health, to assume family responsibilities, to participate in community-based spiritual activities, and to engage in law-abiding, responsible lifestyles. Inmates also get hands-on training opportunities through programs offered by the Correctional Enterprise, the Inmate Construction Program, the Transition Aftercare Network, in which trained mentors provide guidance, encouragement, coping and life coaching skills in collaboration with the Division of Prison, and also the chaplaincy service support. Substance abuse is another significant factor. Alcoholism and drug addictions are illnesses that require treatment, and they are often the underlying cause of criminal activity. In order to correct the criminal behavior, you have to treat the addiction. And once that individual is clean and sober, you need a support system to help stay that way. In prison, treatment programs are provided through our Division of Alcoholism and Chemical Dependency. In the community, probationers obtain substance abuse treatment through our Criminal Justice Partnership programs administered by the Division of Community Corrections. And housing is also a critical issue. Finding a place to live if you have a criminal record is very difficult. And it's even harder if you're required to register as a sex offender. We need to develop resources for housing ex-offenders and places that provide a positive environment and reduce the temptation for one to return to the ways of crime. There are many nonprofit, faith group, government agencies, and individuals doing excellent work to reintegrate offenders safely back into our communities. And I look forward to working with the task force and with Attorney General Cooper to coordinate these efforts in a meaningful way to develop a plan to keep ex-offenders from committing new crimes and, of course, to make our communities safer. Here this morning from the Department of Corrections, we have Nicole Sullivan, who's the head of our Research and Development Department. And along with Nicole is Rashana Parker, okay, in the back, Vincent Gaddy, also in the back, Monica Artis, and Victor Morrow. Where's Victor? Okay, so we're all in the back. So feel free to grab one of them or myself. Thank you, sir.
There are two other staff members here. We have Brad Ellis and Brian Miller from the North Carolina Justice Academy, which is in the Department of Justice. They're with the film crew, helping us to record this meeting. This has been a long day coming for me. As the chief law enforcement officer of the state, I work with police and sheriffs and the SBI and prosecutors to catch criminals, put them in jail, keep our communities safe. That's one thing we do. We work on it all the time. One thing that has continued to plague law enforcement is the statistic that when you walk out of a North Carolina prison, there's close to a 40% chance that within 3 years, you're going to be right back there. Now, from a law enforcement perspective, and from our perspective as citizens of North Carolina, that's unacceptable. We continue to arrest. We continue to put people back in jail. We continue to put our communities at risk. We continue to create more crime victims. I want to continue to push for tougher sentences. I want to continue to make sure that the violent prisoners are in jail so people can be safe. I want to continue to push for more resources for law enforcement so that we can do our jobs better. But there's something else law enforcement can do, and that is we can work with people to make sure that these prisoners who are leaving our walls, people who are leaving our probation system, don't go back and commit crimes in our community and put them right back where they were. It's time for law enforcement to stand up and say, this is something that we need to be involved in. This is something that is a key to safe communities, aside from the moral issues, which I think we're all concerned about. It is something that law enforcement needs to do. Stopping repeat offenders is the safe thing to do, it's the smart thing to do, and it's the right thing to do. Now, this task force, if you look around and you look at the list of people who are here, are the people in this state that can make this happen. I'm convinced that we can come up with a plan to reduce the number of repeat offenders. I don't know if it's 4% or 5% or 6% or 10%. Whatever it is, it will keep our communities safer. We should set big goals, and we should have high expectations. When I started talking to Governor Perdue about this, she understood and agreed that it was something that we had to all pull together to do, and I want to thank her for helping pull together this task force, because it won't work unless we're all working together. I've gone around this state, I've sent my staff to many places to look at things that are happening out there, and there are some good things happening. There are people who are caring about prisoners who get out and are helping them make good choices and go down the right path. There's some state agencies that are doing good work. There are many faith-based groups and nonprofits that are doing good work. But it's all piecemeal, and it is not coordinated. I believe that we can put together a plan where we can make a difference. And that means coordinating the state agencies, the community colleges, the Department of Motor Vehicles, the Employment Security Commission, the Department of Human Services and Substance Abuse, the Department of Correction. They all have to be working together in concert. And I think we all know that particularly in these difficult budget times, we can't come out of here asking for millions of dollars to do this work. We may need the help, but we know that that's not realistic. What we can do, however, is set up a framework to coordinate what we're already doing and then empower these nonprofits and faith-based groups out there who are ready to go to work. All they need is a system. All they need is to be enabled and coordinated. As you'll see from this video that we're going to watch, when someone gets out of prison, they can have the best attitude in the world about wanting to get back to it. But a lot of times they aren't used to being on the outside. They don't want to live by rules anymore. They're frustrated with dealing with the same state agencies and people that they've had to deal with in prison, and they just go back to doing what they were doing. That's where these faith-based nonprofit groups can come in. There are people out there who want to work, and it's going to take a lot of individual attention to help someone stay on the narrow path. It's going to take someone calling that guy and say, you got your AA meeting tomorrow night and you need to be there, and I will pick you up and take you there if you need to go, if you need a ride. I will help you with your resume. You've got 3 job interviews this week, and you need to be there on time, and you need to be dressed, and you need to be ready to go. And I can help you. And there are people in my church who can help you, or there are people in my group that can help you, and we're going to be there. And if we can provide the framework for them, these volunteers are ready to go. And it's not a big cost to the state. We're going to need people to coordinate all of this, but I believe that the volunteers are out there and ready to go. It's not simple. It's complex. The issues that people face once they get on the outside are staggering. But we've got our universities ready to do research on what works and what doesn't. And I've talked to Erskine Bowles about assigning graduate students to follow people when they get out of prison and determine what the hurdles are and determine what works and what doesn't. And let's look at academic empirical studies. And the community colleges already doing a great work are there ready to help, and we need to coordinate them in the best way. And we need to establish our statistics and our baselines, and we need to know what numbers we're talking about and learn about how we are affecting this process. I believe strongly that we can do this, and we've got the people assembled who can pull the levers to make this work. When you look at the talent that's in this room, when you look at the authority that's in this room, then I believe we can make North Carolina a model for this country of what we can do to stop repeat offenders and to keep our communities safer. And it's going to be an honor for me to work with all of you. I'm going to commit my resources to it. I'm going to talk to sheriffs. We've got sheriffs and chiefs on this, but we've talked to sheriffs, chiefs, prosecutors. We've got them here all across the state to say, this is a law enforcement issue. We're going to reduce crime in our communities. We're going to keep our streets safer. I believe we can be effective if we talk about it in that way, because that's what it's all about. We all have our moral reasons for doing this, but keeping streets safer and keeping our communities safer is a way that we can move this ball forward. What I'd like to do at this point is to take some time and let's everyone, and do we have the microphone, the handheld mic? I'm going to start with Tom over here. If you can just give us your name and what you do and maybe a few words. We don't want to take too long here, but a few words about your particular interest in this, and just go all the way around the room. Then we're going to take a few minutes break for folks in the media to talk to any one of you all out there about this effort, and then we'll go on with the rest of the meeting. So Tom, if you want to get the ball rolling here, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Roy. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Bennett. I'm Executive Director of the North Carolina Victim Assistance Network. We're a private nonprofit organization, and we strive to provide services, strength, and comfort for all victims of crime. The most important thing we can do for crime victims is to keep them from becoming victims in the first place. And toward that end, that's why I'm here.
My name is Michael Blackwell. I live in Thomasville. I am president of the Baptist Children's Homes of North Carolina. We have work in 15 North Carolina cities, and each year we serve about 1,500 to 1,600 kids who are from families that are broken, dysfunctional. The children and the young people have been abused or abandoned or neglected, and in many instances we too battle this problem of recidivism. So this is one of the reasons that I'm here. And one of the things that we do at the Baptist Children's Homes, which is the largest nonprofit of its kind in the Southeast United States, is to put a human face on all of these children and all of these family members. And I think that's what we're going to have to do here, to realize that it isn't just prisoner 070340, but it is a human being with a human face, and for whatever reason, that man or that woman has wound up in prison. We don't want them to stay in prison, and we certainly don't want them to go back to prison. So I want to commit myself, and I want to thank the Attorney General for his dream and his vision for this task force. And I think that not only will our input help with this, but it can help with what we're doing with children and families across North Carolina.
I'm Sonia Brown. I'm from the Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Abuse Services. I'm the team leader for the Justice Systems Innovations team. Our team is dedicated to addressing the needs of people with any of those disabilities who are involved in the justice system.
Good morning. I'm Michael Watson. I'm an assistant secretary with the Department of Health and Human Services. My responsibilities are in the area of mental health, developmental disabilities, and substance abuse services. And I come to this with 25 years experience at the community level in the delivery of those services. So I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. I'm Myra Clark, and I'm with the Center for Community Transitions, and we were formerly known as ECHO for some folks who may have heard of us. And we started the work of transitioning people from prisons back into the community in 1974. And we've been doing that ever since. And so this committee and this work has been my dream for many, many years, that more people look at the issue of people coming out of prison and of assisting them so we don't have more victims, and that these folks can return to their families and their communities and make a positive contribution to those, to the communities and their families. And our organization has 4 specific programs. We work with folks transitioning out of prison and jail. We work with the families and the children of people who are incarcerated. We have a sentencing services program that works to look at alternatives to incarceration. And we also operate a 20-bed contract prison with the North Carolina Department of Corrections that we have operated now for 22 years. And so I've been with the organization for that long. And so I've worked with the folks who are incarcerated as well as the folks who are in the community. So I'm thrilled that this committee is meeting and that we're taking a big look at this issue. Thank you.
I'm Alan Cloninger, Sheriff of Gaston County. My experience is that I was a police officer, went to law school, Campbell, good law school. They took me. Practiced as a prosecutor, defense attorney, then came back to law enforcement as sheriff. So I've seen all the sides that are involved here. The answer is not lock them up and throw away the key. But part of the answer is the punishment side. The other part is seeing that everybody has the chance to be a law-abiding citizen again. So that's where I stand. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Good morning. See if it's on. Good morning. My name is Craig Crum, a district court judge here in Wake County. I've been a judge now for 10 years in Wake County. I'm sitting next to the sheriff here. I'm also a former deputy sheriff and a former prosecutor. It's been my experience as a district court judge when I'm in one of our courtrooms where we do felony pleas, that I'm running into a lot of young folks. And these young folks are like 20, 21 years old, and they reach the status of being an habitual felon at 20 and 21 years old. And that's very disturbing. It's also very disturbing when you look at these young folks and they have this look of despair because they've tried. They look for jobs, they can't find them. And as a matter of fact, I go to Walmart a lot. Matter of fact, I probably go about 4 times a week. And this is not a commercial for Walmart, by the way. But I go there a lot. And when I go to Walmart, I always have somebody come up to me and say, what can I do? I have a felony conviction. Where can I go to find a job? And again, it's disturbing to see a person desperate like this. And when a person can't find a job, what do? They turn back to what they know. As I say, to use the street vernacular, they slinging dope on the street. So that's why I'm glad to be here today so that we can do something about this issue. Secretary Keller, I know she mentioned drug treatment court. I do drug treatment court. And it's another one of those things that we do to help prevent people from coming back into the system so we don't have more victims. And I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that you all put this together. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Larry Dale, been with the Department of Corrections for 27 years, currently the superintendent at Craven Correctional. When I started with the department, we had less than 10,000 inmates. Now we have over 40,000. So I see a lot of change. I see a lot of inmates that they're trying, they're striving, but they don't have that push to get them through once they get through the door. We have a lot of programs in the department that help the inmates develop, but a lot of them are short range. So if we can get some meat into it so that we have it so that it'll carry them on through, I think we can do a lot of good. So I look forward to working with this group, and I think we can do this, because I know, talking to inmates, the majority of the inmates want to stay home. The majority of the inmates' families want them to stay home. So if we can put that together, I think we can be successful.
Good morning. My name is Ben David, and I'm District Attorney for New Hanover and Pender County. Most of you have probably been to Wilmington. Fewer of you have probably been to Burgaw. I represent both, and I think it's important as we sit on this commission to remember that we are representing both cosmopolitan areas like Wilmington, but also rural areas like Pender County, because we have ex-offenders in both. And I really do regard this as a community safety issue, not just a moral issue, which I also believe it is. The most fun I've had as district attorney in terms of crime prevention has been teaming with pastors and the schools and business community on something called the Blue Ribbon Commission to Stop Youth Violence that we started in Wilmington, and the power that you have going into the community and talking to kids before they have a right to remain silent, and talking to people about this being a moral issue and how we have to work together to prevent crime. I've really seen the power of that. My co-chair on the crime portion of that commission is the equivalent to what we're trying to do here, the link leading into new communities, working with the ex-offender population. I am committed to seeing ex-offenders succeed. I believe North Carolina will succeed if they are. We all have a vested interest in reducing the rate of recidivism, and I'm very excited to be on this commission and see some of the other people at this table. I believe we can make a real difference, and I'm personally committed to doing what I can as a prosecutor to seeing that this succeeds.
Good morning. I'm Linda Davis, and I'm from here in Raleigh. I'm a community activist. I don't have a long resume of experience or years of expertise in law enforcement or but what I do have is a passion for helping criminals and ex-offenders get back into society and becoming productive. So I just look forward to working with all of you on applying this passion to helping one ex-offender at a time put those pieces together. In some of the prison ministries that I have worked with, we help the incarcerated and we help their families on the outside try to team together to prepare them for their release. But I also have dealt with those ex-offenders who lose their hope once they are out and find so many doors shut in their faces. So, as I say, I look forward to seeing all of those various places that there are people anxious to work on our solutions if we can just figure out how to network them together. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Al DeLea. I lead the governor's policy team. And I'd like to start by thanking General Cooper and Secretary Keller for their leadership on this panel. The work of this task force is critical to the state. The governor recognizes this, and this is why this is one of her priorities in her administration. The work of this task force is really about making lives better for all North Carolinians. For those that are law-abiding citizens, it's about finding ways to make their lives a little bit more free of the fear of crime and perhaps the reality of crime. And for those that have been incarcerated and are coming out, it is a matter of improving their lives by giving them a real shot at becoming law-abiding citizens and staying law-abiding citizens. So the work that we're going to be doing is going to be very important to how we move forward as a state and how we improve our lives throughout the state. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Gene Ellison. I am a private practitioner in criminal law in the city of Asheville. I've been practicing for about 25 years. Prior to that, I was a probation officer for about 4 years. And I, day to day, everything that the Attorney General talked about, I see, because I'm on the other side of trying to keep people on the street, knowing sometimes that there's nothing you can do and they go. But I also see that return, because in 25 years, it's amazing the number of people that are repeat offenders that you see. But it's also frustrating that a lot of these people are looking to work, looking for somewhere to live. It's frustrating that they want to get expungements when they can't because they can't get employment. So I think one of the things we need to focus on is the rehabilitative side of why we send people to prison. When I was a parole officer, we used to go into the prison and interview them and make sure they had jobs when they got out and they had somewhere to go. Part of getting rid of parole, I think, in the state is that we've gotten away from that part of security, because it was our job to make sure that when they came back in the community, they had somewhere to live and they had somewhere to work. And I don't know if anybody's doing that anymore. And I'll say this, I always tell educators that we let them quit school at 16, but they still have to eat. It's the same thing, people coming back to our communities. If they can't get a job, they still have to eat. So they break in my law office, they break in your office, they break in anywhere, because a lot of it they're doing to survive. And so I'm here to do whatever I can. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Yvonne Mims Evans. I'm a resident Superior Court judge in Mecklenburg County. I serve the 7th Judicial Division, which includes Burke, Caldwell, Lincoln, Cleveland, Catawba, Gaston, and Mecklenburg counties, so I'm not just here from the great state. Before I was a Superior Court judge, I was a District Court judge, and while in District Court, I served a long time in juvenile court, where I terminated the parental rights of folks who were in prison because they were in prison for long periods of time, and they were not going to be able to parent their children. As a juvenile court judge, we started the first family drug treatment court in juvenile court to reunite parents who had substance abuse problems with their children, who had been taken because of their substance abuse problems. And now that I'm in Superior Court, I operate one of the drug treatment court programs for convicted felons. They are frustrated that once they get clean and sober, they're not able to find employment. They have run out of family members who are willing to cooperate with them and provide living space. They cannot find living space. They can't reunite with their children because their rights have been terminated. I hope that we address some of those concerns while we serve. And I'd like to thank whoever at the Administrative Office of the Courts thought that I would be helpful on this process.
Good morning. I'm Linda Hayes, the Secretary of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, and I am delighted to be here this morning. And one of the things that I've heard people say already around the table is I've heard the word juvenile many times. And so we know that we see about 29,000 kids a year in the department, either in prevention programs, in our youth development centers, in detention, or in one of the court services that we do with our young people. So my hope is that while many of the kids that we service, their parents are already in DOC's correctional facilities, we would like to think that if we do a great job in our department, that we would keep some of these folks that we're talking about that would be further into the system off the streets. Having said that, with our juvenile crime prevention councils in 99 counties, with 2 counties being a combined council, we think that there are many areas of the prevention efforts that we could do. And as the judge just said, it is very frustrating when we see people go back into their communities not able to get a job or not able to be productive citizens. So we think that on the front end of it, there's a lot that we can do and want to do, and that prevention is certainly one of those keys. But recognizing that we're also dealing with another kind of population, we'd like to be as helpful as we can as a department in keeping kids out of the system, but also in looking at how their parents' influence on them and how we put their parents back into their homes to help them become educated and to help them become more productive citizens in the community. So I appreciate having the opportunity to be a part of such a great group.
I'm Jimmy Hughes with Barton Hill Contracting Company. We have offices throughout North Carolina, home office in Tarboro, North Carolina down east, and we have offices here in Raleigh. Yep, we're in the construction business, and as you well know, we've already heard this morning, economy is down. We're not hiring a lot, but it will turn around one day, and then we'll be hiring. And in the construction industry, we're kind of the first stop for the convicted criminal when he comes out of prison. Why? Is because we are kind of looked at as not being sophisticated as far as our hiring policies. Not a lot of skill required is to be a construction worker. It's kind of easy to get in the door, or it's looked that way. But over the years, that's all changed a lot because of our regulations, employment laws, and things. Our hiring policy is the same as everybody else's. I'm part of the Carolinas AGC, both North and South Carolina. As a member, I serve on the Human Resource Committee for the the Carolinas AGC, past chairman. So I have a lot of contact with construction throughout the state. And I think the construction industry, looking at our dilemma and what we've heard here today and getting convicted criminals back in the workforce, we would really like to be a part of the solution. We don't want to be part of the problem. And I look forward to working with all you people. I want to hear the other side. We are an employer. We are the employer and private business. And, it's not easy today. And a lot of the safety-sensitive jobs that we are involved in, we build in schools on a playground, with children out there. We talk about sex offenders, and then we talk about all the security involved in the airport jobs, military bases. Our hands are tied in a lot of cases of who we can hire and who we can't hire. And so, I'm really here to learn and to provide any information I can from our side of the house. Thank you a lot.
Good morning. My name is James Langston. I'm currently the superintendent at Wake Correctional Center, which is a minimum security facility here in Raleigh. We spend an awful lot of time on a day-to-day basis preparing inmates for reentry into society, only to find out when it's time to go, there's nothing there for them. Mr. Ellison's comments touched on me because I can remember years ago where we had pre-release and aftercare for inmates. And it started while they were still incarcerated, and the support system followed them when they were released. I'm coming up on 30 years and serving on this committee. I'm glad we're getting ready to get back to basics.
Good morning. I'm Thomas Maher. I am the director of North Carolina's Offices of Indigent Defense Services. And I must say that I was grateful that the Defense Bar has been given a voice and seat at this table. For many years, I was a defense attorney, and I would stand with people as they were sentenced to prison. And more often than not, I either wouldn't hear from them again or I would represent them again. Occasionally, you would have happy stories of people who would say, you know what, I really straightened my life out. But that didn't happen very often. And one of the things, I think defense attorneys are often seen as adversaries and fighting in court, but this is one of those areas where the defense bar has an interest that aligns with law enforcement and Department of Corrections. We would like our clients to be able to lead productive lives. We would like them to not be coming back into court as clients. IDS has a very strong interest. Sentencing Services is an agency under our purview, and Sentencing Services works to identify defendants who could be diverted from prison to begin with, that maybe we can identify some folks who don't need to be going to prison who can have the type of intervention that prevents them from continuing to commit crimes and become law-abiding citizens. So I'm grateful that we have a seat at this table, and I'm looking forward to working on this issue.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Joseph Martinez. I'm the Executive Director of First at Blue Ridge. First at Blue Ridge is a 125-bed therapeutic community located in the western part of the state near Asheville. We currently have 85 primary beds, 20 contracted beds with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. We're breaking ground for a 50 to 60 bed program for women, pregnant women, and women with children. And we also have about 50 beds for transitional living. We work very closely with sentencing services because we are an alternative, but it's a team approach that we use with sentencing services, with probation. The probation folks in our part of the state have blessed us with 2 probation officers assigned to our population, so we're able to track them through sentencing services with their plans, have them in our program for a year, and then prepare the aftercare and the follow-up. Our frustration lies in the fact that we make our money the old-fashioned way. We go out and earn it, which means we receive no funding from anyone other than the funds that we generate through our entrepreneurial services and contracts, such as with the City of Asheville. Where it gets frustrating is that employers are quick to hire us as an entity and put our guys to work, but when our gentlemen hit reentry and then try and go get a job on their own because of their felony history or their criminal background, they can't be hired, but they just worked there the day before. So that's frustrating. But I'm looking forward to being at this table because shortly we'll have a little under 200 people there that will need services and need to reenter the community as taxpayers as opposed to having been tax burdens, and we want to have that road be paved for them. Thank you.
My name is Gregory Moss, and I'm pastor at St. Paul Baptist Church in Charlotte, and also the president of the General Baptist State Convention, which is comprised of 1,600 churches across the state. We are, I guess you could say, advocates and have a great care and great passion, most of our churches do, for people who are transitioning. We are charged, I guess, with helping people to have hope and to hold on to hope and to help them to understand that it will get better. So I'm glad that the church has a place at the table with the state today. And I do have a question, but Mrs. Cooper, I'm glad to be here. And also, Mr. Keller, I may be speaking early, but I think all of us have a stake in this, but it would also be good to have someone, perhaps who's an ex-offender, to be at this table. Also, so that we might be able to really hear from them, and I think they could help us a lot.
Hi, my name is Nancy Murray. I'm the CEO of Builders of Hope. Builders of Hope is a nonprofit, and 100% of what we do is rehabilitation. 100% of what we do is affordable housing. The interesting thing about our participation, hopefully in the task force here, is to be able to share some of the learnings that we've had through our Work Mentor program. So as an example, we work with local faith-based shelters, the Department of Corrections, local churches. We integrate into our workforce men coming from the homeless environment and are just starting actually a program in Charlotte with the Department of Corrections to be able to bring men out on pre-release and also post-release on a Work Mentor program on our construction sites, and we'd be very interested in working with your church. From what we've seen so far, faith, jobs, housing, and then wraparound services are really key to the success of these men once they come out of incarceration. A lot of them do end up in the homeless shelters. If they're lucky enough to get into the faith-based program shelters, we find that the recidivism rates drop exponentially. And then being able to bring them onto the job site where no questions asked and you really believe in them and give them an opportunity where not only we're teaching them construction skills, but we're also working with them when they're bored on the weekends and feeling tempted that they have somebody that they can call. And so we have mentor relationships. And then the component of housing. When they come out, typically the only place that they have to go is where they came from, which is where all the surrounding temptations are right back in their face again. And so to be able to solve the issue of housing and to find safe enclave housing is something that we are investing in and working locally with Step Up Ministries and the Raleigh Rescue Mission for some affordable, low-income, permanent rental housing where they can have enclave housing with wraparound services and not work mentors, but actually life mentors associated with the housing component. So thank you for allowing me to participate in this board.
Good morning. My name is Donald Pinchback, Chief Court Counselor, Department of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, Judicial District 14, Durham County. I am honored to be part of this assembly today, and I thank you gentlemen, as well as our governor, for addressing these situations and the willingness to address these situations. I would like to just express my sentiments as regarding the youthful offender. We speak about the adult offender, but we also have to realize that adult offenders, just like each one of us, were young people. They were young at one time, going to school, having issues, or may not having issues. But I think John Kennedy said it best. He quoted that America's greatest resource and best hope for the future is our children. And I think with that spirit, that that's what I'm going to bring here, and that's what I feel in my heart, and I'm just, like I said, honored to be part of this initiative. So without saying any more, I'll pass it along.
Hi, my name is Tracy McPherson, and I'm happy to represent Dr. Scott Rawls, who's president of the North Carolina Community College System. He had a scheduling conflict today, but he's very interested in this committee. On his staff, I am working with prison education and public safety programs, including our law enforcement training program. So we have an interest on a number of levels. We do offer educational services through our local community colleges at our juvenile justice facilities and also at every one of the states and the federal prisons in North Carolina. In addition, we're the primary provider of law enforcement training in the state, so we have an interest on that level. But probably the biggest interest that we have on this committee is that we know we need to connect the dots better in the community. We do have 58 community colleges serving all 100 counties, and we've long seen a need to better connect the training that we provide in the prison with what we can do as far as being a support in the community. And so we look forward to this forum being a way to do that.
Morning, my name is Mike Roberts, and I'm the Commissioner of the Division of Motor Vehicles. And my background is law enforcement. And, you know, I look at the sheriff, and typically when something happens, we go to the list of people that we know. And law enforcement basically knows that it's going to be repeat offenders. And that's a shame. We've got to agree with the Attorney General. It's going to take the group in this room, and you've got a good group. Literally everybody in the system is represented here. But it'll take that daily contact of reaching out, and the AT&T thing, you got to reach out and touch them. The faith-based organizations, that's really not where they were hanging out before they went to prison the first time. But if we can figure a way that when they come out, that they get to meet somebody with one of these organizations, and then that daily contact, you'll have a system that'll work.
Hello, my name is Tracy Royster, and I'm a Judicial District Manager for 27, which includes Cleveland, Lincoln, and Gaston counties. I've been with the department for 28 years. I've been a probation officer. I've worked on the front lines. Right now, we're currently supervising between 3 counties, almost 5,000 offenders. And I have employees that would welcome many of the resources that are here at this table. We struggle constantly to balance control and treatment of offenders. And our main goal is no new crimes and no new victims. And we can't do it by ourselves. It takes a community to raise a kid, and it takes a community to turn an offender's life around. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I look forward to working with everyone.
Good morning. My name is Dana Martinez, and I am representing the Executive Director for the Division of Workforce Development, Roger Shackelford, who sends his apologies for not being able to be here, but this meeting coincided with our state conference. Without saying too much, I do know that our division is very much committed to the power of employment and to the success of this task force. So thank you.
I was just telling my friend Scott Thomas here that the advantage of sitting at the end of the table is to be humbled by the expertise that's gathered here. I'm John Smith. I'm the Director of the Administrative Office of the Courts, office I've held only since January. I serve at the pleasure of the Chief Justice, and I'm here to express our support for the Governor's Executive Order 12 and the Attorney General's efforts and Secretary Keller's commitment. I started out as a defense attorney here in Raleigh many, many years ago, and then I went down to Wilmington and worked in the DA's office where Ben David is now. I was a prosecutor for 14 years and then a district court judge for 16 years and saw the establishment of many of the programs that benefit the people we're trying to address here. After that, I became a Superior Court judge for 4 years. I'm now doing this, and I think that it's an honor to be a part of this group because I have a strong commitment to solve this problem. Obviously, a court system that operates on 2.1% of the entire state budget, who makes the decisions about who goes and who doesn't and who goes back. This is a critical issue to us, and our office is committed. I'm not sure I'll be able to be here all the time. I intend to be here all the time, but it's such an important issue that I've appointed one of my deputy directors, McKinley Wooten, who has been involved in court programs for many years, to be my designee in this and my liaison within the administrative office. And here today, representing him, is Sandy Pierce. And you need to get to know her because she is the one that's actually in charge of our court programs, drug court and all of these other things that we've tried to do. So we're committed to deal with this issue. We recognize the significance of it, and our resources are available.
My name is Scott Thomas. I'm the district attorney in Carteret, Craven, and Pamlico counties, and I'm here as the chair of the Governor's Crime Commission. I've been chair of the Crime Commission now for about 5 months. Linda Hayes held that job for 15 years, and I'm trying to carry on the good work that she started. Just a little background on myself. I've also worked as an assistant district attorney, as a criminal defense attorney, served in the State House and also in the State Senate. So I too have seen this issue from a number of different vantage points. At the Governor's Crime Commission, we serve as the chief advisory body to Governor Perdue and also to Secretary Young on criminal justice issues. In addition to that, we administer the state's federal criminal justice block grants, and we help fund many of the nonprofit organizations and government entities throughout the state who do some of the work that we are talking about here today. I think Attorney General Cooper hit on a very important point earlier, which is this. What we need to come out with, hopefully, with the end product will be something that can incorporate organizations and entities that are already in place, faith-based organizations, nonprofit organizations, because I have found in my years of public service that there are a lot of people out there who want to participate, who want to help. They just need some framework or process within which to operate and provide that assistance. Another thing that we see in the court system is that I would venture to say probably, and Ben could confirm this, Ben David, probably 80, 85 to 90% of the cases we see in court are either directly or indirectly related to controlled substance abuse and also mental health issues. And those are some of the things as they're coming into the court system that we face, and many times as they're leaving prison, they still face those same issues. And somebody else, I think Mike Robertson, mentioned that it's important to have a person working with a person because, you know, they can come to the group meetings, but if you don't have that follow-through with a human contact to give these people the hope that they need, then it's all for nothing. But I look forward to working on the commission with all the members.
Good morning. I'm Leslie Winter. I am the executive director of the Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation. I probably have less working knowledge of this issue than anybody else around the table. But we have observed in our work in communities, and I think increasingly the impact of the inadequate structures or ways for ex-offenders to reintegrate in their communities, particularly in the areas of affordable housing and re-entry into the job market. So we are seeing that in various communities that we do work in and see the need for some bigger picture solutions than a kind of one 10-person program at a time approach, even though some of these programs are quite good and are doing important, good work in their communities. Thank you.
Just leave it there. We also have Jim Korth here, and if we can pass the mic to him.
Good morning. My name is Jim Korth. Is this on? Test? Got it. Okay. I am the ex-offender coordinator for the Employment Security Commission, and I am here today on behalf of Moses Carey. He's our chairman, who is with Mr. Shackelford at the Workforce Development Conference. I apologize for being late myself because I was doing a workshop at the Vocational Rehab Conference, which is also going on right now down the road in Chapel Hill. So, but the Employment Security Commission, as the State Employment Services Agency, recognizes the role we can play in helping the ex-offender population with getting back into the workforce. We know that an ex-offender who finds employment is 3 times less likely to recidivate than someone who doesn't. So, and we're recognizing more and more the role that we can and need to play in our communities for connecting employers and employees together. So we had already begun some initiatives in that area several months ago, and excited to see how things are going, and look forward to what we have to do in the future as we continue to work with the Department of Corrections and work with this task force and making a difference in these men's lives. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody else that I missed that came in later? Okay, a couple of housekeeping things. We're going to break for about 10 minutes. I'd like for people, the media's there, if you want to speak to any one of these folks, if you can go and do that. And then to grab your lunch and bring it in, and we'll have dinner and a movie. We're going to have see a short video presentation and eat during that, because we're going to have a working lunch. And then we'll have the rest of our meeting this afternoon. There are a couple of other members who are going to come in a little later too. A lot of things that I thought about as people said things, and I'm more excited than ever to see the caliber of people and what we have going on here. But just 2 things that I thought was important. One, Reverend Moss, we do have an ex-offender on this commission, Dolores Jennings, who's not here today but will be here. And secondly, one point that Linda made, I believe some studies have shown that 70% of kids who have at least one parent incarcerated will be arrested. So that's a pretty staggering figure regarding juveniles. So we will get started back at, let's just say, 12:14, okay? We're going to get back at 12:14. Say hello to people, get your lunch, speak to the media, and then we'll start again.